I would like to welcome Dr. Terry Bates, founder and CEO of Quantera Analytical. Hi, Terry.
Hi, everybody. At Quantera, we're reinventing a really broken part of trace level analysis, which is sample preparation. And we're introducing a new architecture that's built for modern workflows. I'm Terry Bates, and I'm an analytical chemist by training, and I'm the founder of Quantera. So if you make wine, fragrance, foods, or any like specialty chemical, a lot of your product's value depends on molecules found in tiny concentrations, which is what I'm calling trace levels. And if you're a farmer screening for mold or like a baby food company ensuring safety, forensics labs that are analyzing evidence, the value of trace level analysis goes far beyond just cost and efficiency. In a lot of cases, it directly affects safety, health, and different outcomes. But today, across the global testing market that processes hundreds of millions of samples every year, the preparation remains slow, solvent heavy, and super expensive. Turnaround times are often measured in days, and there's a lot of room for error in the current workflows. But it does get worse because the choice of sample preparation really shapes our entire workflow, start to finish here. So capture materials have advanced dramatically. If you've seen Nobel Prizes lately in chemistry, current tools are still locked into old coatings and solvent systems. So highly selective sorbents like molecularly imprinted polymers already exist, but our legacy prep geometries weren't designed to use them effectively. And on the back end, those same geometries restrict labs to slow chromatography-based measurement. So for suitable applications and lower cost, there are lower cost technologies, one of which is my expertise, which is ambient ionization mass spectrometry. Those exist, but conventional prep can't take advantage of the progress there. And that's really the key point. We can speed up both sides of this workflow. With our approach, a lab can either use legacy chromatography-based analytical tech, or they can reduce their sample processing time from tens of minutes down to seconds with chromatography-free mass spectrometry. And what that really means is that the sample prep is holding back this massive market, using more solvent, giving us slower answers, and limiting access to trace level testing. So to be clear, that $19 billion figure reflects only current sample preparation market. The broader trace level testing industry is 3 to 4 times as large as this, and it's expected to double over the next 5 years. So this is the Curio, and it's the heart of like our whole device. In step one here, you load samples into our multi-well plates. This is Quantera's multi-well plate, another consumable. We're loading samples here shown in purple into the Curio, and then the Curio is loaded with blue sorbent cartridges that are tailored to your analysis. In step two, the extraction here happens in parallel. We can either do it from the headspace or by immersion, which captures most of the testing market and the sample prep market. And we process it in our field-deployable incubator. You can see the cartridges turn purple as the analytes are captured. In step three, the Curio, which now has our loaded cartridges on it, is removed and then can be sent directly for analysis or shipped to a contract lab or even stored. So the parallel architecture makes everything dramatically faster here. And as a result, we achieve 5 times lower cost, 10 times faster processing, 30 times greater throughput, and 20 times less solvent use. And so as a kind of an example here of this being used and this being applied to a case that we're working on, smoke taint is a classic parts per billion problem with multi-million-dollar consequences. So if a vineyard has been exposed to wildfire smoke, right now producers have limited ways to estimate the impacts on their fruit. And so today, they collect their bulk samples, refrigerate them, and ship them to centralized lab. They have a labor-intensive sample preparation, and then they wait days for results, which is often already after key decisions should have been made. With Quantera, that workflow changes. So the target compounds are extracted directly onto the Curio in the field with no solvent, no refrigeration, and no bulk transport. And the sample prep takes place in under 2 minutes. So that drops per sample cost by roughly 80%. And then that allows you to test across an entire vineyard rather than a spot check. And because these samples are compatible with chromatography-free mass spec, you can also generate your results in near real time. So this turns smoke taint analysis from like a retrospective diagnosis into some actionable business decision, which is very important to the wine and grape industry. And smoke taint is just one example like this. The same approach modernizes wine, grape, and other agricultural processes more broadly, from harvest timing to mold risk and flavor development decisions. And in wine grapes, this kind of timely info is really everything. So that's why we're working with Gallo to improve their harvest decisions this fall, hopefully not for smoke taint. Our partnerships are really a deliberate part of our go-to-market strategy. So we're trying to establish ourselves as the new industry standard. We know how conventional approaches achieved widespread adoption, and we're executing that same playbook to get the Curio into these labs. So we're starting with technical credibility through published work with the USDA and university partners, and moving into larger scale validation with Gallo, which is a large wine and grape producer. And then reinforcing that at a production level with ETS, which is a laboratory that does these at scale, these analyses at scale. All three of these partnerships are already in motion. So we begin with food and beverage QA/QC. That's the largest and least regulated segment of trace level testing. And these customers are adopting technology to improve their product quality and their margins. So from there, we expand into regulated food safety, forensics and toxicology. That will be done with partners like DrugScan and Pinpoint, followed by environmental and clinical testing. And finally, we're aligned with major mass spec leaders like Bruker and Advion. And by us removing our sample prep bottleneck, we unlock faster workflows and support the adoption of their high-value instrumentation, some of which we already have in our lab, thanks to Bruker. And the reason we're able to move so quickly with these partners is really our long-standing relationships across the field. So I interned at Gallo and continue to maintain professional relationships there. I previously worked at Bruker. We remain a collaborator of theirs, and they even placed a state-of-the-art mass spectrometer in our lab to support our validation and development work. We're a 4-person full-time team, including 2 scientists, an engineer with a compliance background, and an operations specialist. But we're supported by this awesome team of advisors who bring decades of experience across mass spec, applied testing, and commercialization, including leadership behind Advion and other major instrumentation and consumable platforms, which really helps us in the market. And together, this team represents deep concentration of expertise in exactly what we're doing. We're also protected by a robust Cornell-backed patent portfolio and supported by CTL. So Quantera sells a durable extraction platform, but the core revenue comes from consumables. Those are cartridges, gaskets, and well plates, all designed for specific analyte classes. And the key driver here is the cartridges. We price them at about $350 per use, and their margins are roughly 80%. So remember I said hundreds of millions of small molecule sample preparations are performed globally each year. And at that scale, even a small sample per sample economics will really create a lot of recurring revenue for us. So with conservative adoption, we reach over $10 million in annual revenue within just a few years. We've been sprinting since April of 2025. We've been in our lab since September of 2025. And the next 12 months are really a key inflection point for Quantera. So the core technical risk is behind us now, and our focus is now scaling into commercial production. So we're launch ready with proven sorbent materials for the cartridges. And in parallel, we're expanding into new chemistries with things that have already worked in biological systems, extracting melatonin. So our near-term priority is having sufficient production in place for the fall harvest, where we'll be working with USDA germplasm and Gallo. And at the same time, we're advancing next generation sorbents and active well plate technologies. And in the next year, we expect to be ready to scale production and drive adoption with like larger contract labs like ETS. So in order to achieve like all of the goals that we have one opportunity and one ask. So the opportunity is that we're going to close a small seed round to get us through the first commercial product production of the headspace iteration of our device. That goes into these three partners that I talked about. And so we have a $250,000 pre-seed that we're looking at to get through that work. And our ask is for production partners. So we need production partners for each of these components that we're going to need to make. But I hope that you get the bottom line from this presentation is that trace level analysis is really a massive and rapidly growing market, and it's bottlenecked by many outdated technologies. So we want to build the foundation for the next generation of trace level analysis at Quantera. Thanks so much for your attention.
Thanks, Terry, for the great presentation. I'm curious about, so you said you're looking for production partners, manufacturing partners. What kinds of expertise do you need there? And have you identified some of them already?
We have identified some of them. So we're dedicated to the upstate New York economy. So we're trying to keep everything in upstate New York. That's one of the things that we've done so far. But what we really need is somebody who can get us through a pilot test of making each of these components, and then also scale with us as we grow. So that's kind of the challenge, is finding somebody who can go from something like thermo pressing an item all the way into a mold that could produce 500,000 of our well plates at a time. We're trying to stick with one person throughout that. So that's one of the challenges that we've had.
But it's all on the consumable side, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Dane?
Hey, Terry, great job. I'm sorry if I missed this, but talk to me about the incumbents. I guess they're in the sample prep space as you described it. Like, who are those players, and are those potential acquirers of what you're doing, or is this so different and disruptive to what they're doing? It's completely different potential acquirers for what you're building.
I think they are potential acquirers. So these are Sapelco, Sigma, ResTech. These are smaller vendors that make these technologies.
Okay.
They're very pigeonholed in their tech because it's dependent on different automation systems and then different analysis. So that's why I think they might want to acquire us at some point, but that'll be a longer term project.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.